In October 2019, I received an anonymous message to my personal Facebook account, which threatened myself, my grandmother, and also my newborn baby son. The person threatened to rape him. So I've lost a part of myself because of those threats. I've had to change how I work to still be in journalism.
This is Patricia Devlin, a former crime reporter in Northern Ireland. Her story of abuse while working as a female journalist is harrowing, but also nothing new.
I am attacked every 19 seconds on the internet.
Violent and threatening tweets directed at two female journalists.
Threats of sexual assaults and rape have grown disturbingly common.
But now, in 2026, online violence against female journalists is getting even more sinister and dangerous than ever before.
When you think, oh, it couldn't get worse than having your children threatened, it actually got worse for me because the threats went from online to being in real life.
In fact, female journalists, in comparison to just 5 years ago, now report more than double the rate of physical threats directly linked to online violence. So how did the work of female journalists get so much more dangerous? And is there anyone or anything we can do to stop it? To help answer this, I talked with the academics, researchers, and reporters on the front lines of this fight. And what I learned was much worse than I could have ever expected.
Hate speech and online harassment.
She died because of her work.
My most unforgivable crime was reporting while female.
So at that time, I was a crime journalist working paramilitary crime and violence, and I was advised by people to stop writing about paramilitaries. But as a journalist, we shouldn't have to stop writing about these people. We should be protected.
The real dangers that come from covering difficult, dangerous topics is something that journalists and news organizations alike have always had to grapple with. But it certainly feels that in this day and age, journalists like Patricia are dealing with this reality more than ever. When I started researching this story, trying to understand the scope of danger that all journalists, but especially female journalists, are facing right now, I came across two recent global studies, The Chilling and Tipping Point, that look at online violence towards female journalists. By interviewing hundreds of journalists around the world, both reports look at the ways in which female journalists are attacked online, how these threats are evolving, and potential ways to combat this abuse.
We now have 3/4 of women journalists who say that they are attacked in the course of their work.
That's Nabeelah Shabbir, a lead researcher for both reports.
So many of the women journalists who we've looked into in depth with their cases of online violence against them, that there is this implication that there's this impunity that happens when you are harassed and attacked online.
And this is a reality that journalists like Patricia know all too well.
Other people see that, oh, well, if that person can say something to her, well, then I can as well.
And the normalization of this abusive behavior online doesn't just encourage further instances of online abuse. It can escalate it far beyond the screen.
There is nothing virtual about online violence. If you're doxxed, that is your address being released to the public and you being attacked at your home.
And unfortunately, this intimate connection between online abuse and offline violence is something that Patricia has experienced firsthand.
The worst threat I got, 2 death threats within 12 hours. The police coming to my door, we've received intelligence that you're going to be attacked.
12 hours. That's how long it took for online abuse to turn into a potentially deadly situation. Thankfully, in this situation, Patricia wasn't harmed, but unfortunately, other female journalists haven't been as lucky.
Malta, the 16th of October 2017. Journalist Daphne Caruana Galizia is killed in a car bomb attack.
Described as a one-woman WikiLeaks, she had become known for exposing cronyism within the country's political and business elite.
The case of Daphne Caruana Galizia is a particularly potent one. She, for me, is like someone who I respect so much and kind of doing this work for.
And when we look at acts of violence against female journalists, it often happens within environments where those committing violence against journalists can do so with impunity due to instability or corruption within the local government. For instance, a place like Malta has been overwhelmed by government corruption, something that Daphne helped to expose. While Northern Ireland has been hampered by an unsteady government since the Good Friday Agreement almost 30 years ago. The point is, violence against female journalists does not happen in a vacuum. It's in fact a reflection of the communities and people that they cover. That had me thinking about what's going on in the United States right now, where we are seeing female journalists being targeted by powerful people who don't like what these journalists are reporting about, in ways that go from the generally offensive to the outright authoritarian.
A Nashville television reporter now in immigration detention.
And while the methods of intimidation towards female journalists feels almost unlimited, for these journalists, the abuse usually has a common through line, in ways that distinguish it from the very real abuse that male journalists also face. This was outlined in a separate 2025 report, where in one part, the study found that general insults and politically motivated hate were experienced by male and female journalists at a similar rate online. Yet, when it comes to openly sexist messages, female journalists face it far more than their male colleagues. And this data highlights an important point. While hate speech and harassment affects all journalists, there are specific types of violence that disproportionately affect female journalists in this field.
There were male colleagues of mine writing about the stuff that I was writing about. No one was threatening to rape their children.
Furthermore, in cases like Patricia's, it seems that authorities only start to take these threats seriously once they happen in person.
Authorities don't take online abuse and violence seriously. Like, they took it more seriously when my name was spray painted on walls, but they didn't take it seriously when, for years, which turned out to be years, I was getting trolled and harassed every single day online.
In fact, if we look at the law enforcement reaction towards the specific rape threats that Patricia received in 2019, this lack of legitimacy given to online abuse is even more clear. After reporting the incident to police and waiting years for accountability for this incident, Patricia, along with members of the international women's media community, were shocked that nothing ever happened.
It has damaged my confidence in the police. I always had full confidence in the police up until what happened to me.
And unfortunately, a lack of action in cases like this can lead to a sense of impunity for groups or individuals who have a vested interest in removing female journalists from the public sphere and are specifically using sexually targeted abuse to achieve those aims, something that the US State Department has found to be utilized by foreign states and non-state actors alike. So what can be done to help female journalists combat this abuse both online and offline? Frankly, there are a bunch of challenges that come with tackling this issue, from rollbacks of trust and safety teams at major social media companies to, well, this.
You are the worst reporter. No wonder CNN has no ratings because of people like you.
It is pretty clear that our mission and our work is at odds with this administration.
That's Nadine Hoffman, the executive director of the International Women's Media Foundation, an international organization that, among many things, tries to give female journalists the resources to protect themselves.
We've been doing safety training in the US for about the last 7 years. So we'll try to find, a newsroom, a news collaborative that can host us and then help us to promote to as widely as possible to make sure that it's open to freelancers as well as staff journalists.
In our current media and political environment, it should be noted that safety for female journalists can take on many different forms, whether that's dealing with the dangers of AI, physically protecting yourself at a protest, or dealing with legal threats. But perhaps most important is understanding that appropriate safety measures will look different for each and every journalist.
We really focus on identity in those trainings because we know that that has a lot to do with risk.
And this risk mitigation approach is necessary in part because studies find that female journalists with minority backgrounds often experience greater levels of online violence compared to their white female peers. Yet, if there is any experience that is common across a wide swath of journalists, it's dealing with mental health struggles within the course of their work.
I suffered really badly. Like, I am getting treated for post-traumatic stress disorder, and my mental health took a big decline.
Stories like Patricia's in Northern Ireland or Daphne's in Malta are concerning on a multitude of levels. On a human level, it's upsetting and unacceptable for people to be harassed, abused, or even killed while doing their jobs, whether you agree with them on certain political, economic, and social issues or not. Without a wide-ranging acknowledgement that violence of any kind against journalists, and especially female journalists, is unacceptable, we normalize this violence towards anyone who shares their opinion or their voice in the public square. And that's exactly what's happening to female journalists right now.
Safety is one pillar that has more recently become a central focus of our work because we see it as a barrier for women journalists who are getting, forced out of their positions or who are leaving the industry because there are so many safety issues that they face.
Yet, in the face of this grim reality, there is hope because of people like Patricia, Nadine, and Nabeelah, who all, in their own way, are making sure that female journalists can continue speaking truth to power and telling important stories about their communities that make us all more informed on the issues facing the world we live in today. Now, it is on government leaders and regular people alike to stand by these journalists and defend the freedom of the press, not just because we should, but because our democracy depends on it.